Okay, guys, we're back again for some more Pearl. Woo! A couple people actually sent me this video about Pearl. Apparently, this is her co-host in some capacity, or a person that she. Well, I know it's a person she works with. I don't know if I call him a co-host, but I suppose he is, or something. Anyway, he spoke out against Pearl on his own channel. I think it's Sarah Garvey. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm really not trying to. I'm just a silly goose. But this is over her whole situation where she platformed Nick Fuentes and, you know, all that silly goosery. And he has something to say, and I guess we're all curious about what he's saying. Let's see what we got here.
Before we even get started,
tell him.
If you have watched 2 or more of our videos and you have not subscribed, then we have what, pal?
Beef.
What do we have?
Beef.
Exactly, so you better get doing that right now.
I guess it is a co-host. I'm a silly goose. Yeah, I have watched more than 2. I can't subscribe. And we do have beef. I'm sorry, girl.
Before we even get started, all right? If you have watched 2 or more of our videos,
I guess this is the
and
intro.
you have subscribed,
What
Tell
happened?
him.
then we have what, pal?
Beef.
What have we got?
Beef.
Exactly, so you better get doing that right now. Over to you, pal.
I'm making this video today that I didn't initially want to make.
Okay.
But there comes a time when we're all at a crossroad
Yeah.
and have to make a decision. And
my
sometimes
favorite
that
leveling
decision can affect you morally, it can affect you spiritually, and it can affect you financially. But it's a decision that we can't shy away from. Now, recently, JustPearlyThings has been caught up in some controversy. Why? She has interviewed avid racist and known racist Nick Fuentes.
True.
He is also an anti-Semite.
Yes,
What did
that's
Pearl
true.
do when she interviewed him? What she done is that she laughed with him and seems to agree with a lot of his points.
Talk about.
I have this is just a genuine question. So I don't know if this is somebody who they always like he always works with her, or if maybe they have like one show together. I don't know. But my question, and this is just curiosity, what did he have? What did he have to say himself? When she was like, "Oh, I'm going to interview Nick Fuentes," I wonder. Either way, it sounds like his biggest frustration isn't that she even platformed him. It's that, like, when she did, she was too agreeable to what was going on. And that was the bigger issue more than anything else, which makes perfect sense. I'm just curious about that.
About instances of like when they initially freed the slaves, there were some slaves that felt so indebted to their owners that they would travel across states to pay them back. And they actually had a really good relationship with them.
Whoa, really good relationship. Hey, same thing with Beauty and the Beast, am I right? I think that you can probably call that some form of Stockholm syndrome. The problem is like, yeah, you know, listen, when the slaves were freed, they weren't really freed. Like, a lot of them would work for their slave master, because where else did they have to go? This concept of them having a good relationship, like, maybe they did within the confines of their relationship, but you do understand that, like, that doesn't make that whole situation good just because they've rationalized why what was going on was okay, because that's really what it boils down to. There's no the problem is that, like, when you say this, she's saying that as it comes off as a downplay of slavery, whereas it could be an interesting conversation about the people's mental health and the way that people are impacted by, well, let's be real, some form of trauma, because, like, I mean, yeah, truthfully, being a slave, I think, is a traumatic experience. I don't know for sure, but I think it might be. Because that could be an interesting conversation about some form of, like, Stockholm syndrome or something. But the way that if you want to talk about it like the way I just talked about it, you have to be intelligent about it. Because if not, guess what you're saying? You're just saying that, like, slaves actually kind of liked being slaves and it really wasn't that big of a deal. And maybe we should go back there. That's everything that's implied when you say that. And it's pretty explicit. You have to be careful. You have to be careful about that stuff. But I don't think that Pearl was trying to have that nuanced conversation. I think it was more of just like a downplay of what was going on, more than anything else.
Now, if she had said some of these things about the Jewish community, she would have been cancelled in a hot minute.
Maybe.
Ask Kyrie Irving. Ask Kanye West. Now,
I mean, Kyrie Irving, I think, is fine. I don't agree with that, mostly because this is the internet. And if she had said anti-Semitic shit, I think people would have cared less. She's, like, let's be real, like, her audience is, like, mostly, like, manosphere, and which seems to be disproportionately, like, black. And so, which is obviously, you're going to, when you say these racist shit, you're going to get more backlash, right? It makes absolutely perfect. It's like if I went to, like, an Italian restaurant and I said, there's too much sugar in the sauce, they're gonna kill me. That's racist. You can't say that to an Italian person. when it comes to like Hollywood, though, not for nothing, both things that she said, if it came to like a Hollywood type of a thing, like that sphere, she would have been canceled for the racism and the anti-Semitism. I would argue that, I mean, like those both I would say are on pretty, I'd say it's probably more, being racist is probably, a white person saying a racist thing is policed more in our regular like Hollywood landscape than saying, well, maybe, I guess I would say they're comparable. But yeah, but anyway, Kanye loves Jews. What are you talking about? He loves them. He watched 21 Jump Street, and then it saved his life. What are you talking about? So, yeah.
This isn't about the Jewish community. This is about us.
Okay.
Okay? And so after that interview, Pearl decided to make an apology video, which was, in my personal point of view, disingenuous and PR stunt.
Damn!
And all in all, it came from a place of deception.
Jesus!
People say that stuff about me. They say I'm sexist. They say I'm a misogynist.
That's, I mean, I'm surprised. It sounds like, wow. Okay. I was expecting him to be like, yeah, I disagree with this, and here's why. But for him to say that it's disingenuous, I mean, unless you think he's trying to play some kind of angle, he's going in pretty hard. So.
And, you know, I really just like to give people the benefit of the doubt when I interview them. I don't go into interviews trying to interrogate someone. I just more kind of listen and see where they're coming from. In hindsight, that wasn't smart. And in hindsight, I should have had someone, you know, maybe Sarah Garvey, maybe another content creator that could have pushed back more and really was more educated on the topics that he was talking about than I was. Because I certainly was not an expert in any of the stuff that he was talking about.
Now,
it's true. It's hard to say that slavery is bad, guys, unless you're if you've really, really deeply studied
on social media for a while, and I have done interviews with the likes of Tommy Robinson, Sargon of Akkad, politicians like Lee Jasper, and also Lin May, and people from the music industry like So Solid, Mega Man to be exact.
Are they all like racist or something?
Now, Pearl was reacting to my content prior to coming to the UK, and so when she came to the UK, I was very interested in the content that she would actually put out. And it just so happened that she was putting out content that I was interested in, similar to what the late, great Kevin Samuels actually put out. And I understand it because I myself had been embroiled in court cases and things of that nature when it comes to the mother of my son, and understand that the gynocentric order in which we live in is something that needs to be spoken about. So when
what is gynocentric order? What does this mean? I've never heard this word before. Gynocentrism is described as a continuation of the courtly love connections of medieval times, where women were valued as quasi-aristocratic class and males were seen as lower. I've never dominated or emphasizing female interest or a female point. Okay. I mean, I don't think that that's true. I think that we're having a bit of a rebound from having a male-dominated society to hearing women talk, and using court cases as an example definitely can be shitty for men, because you're going to come out the other side even if you win with fewer access to your kids. But overall, it's the court system favors women when it comes to custody, because women tend to take care of their kids at drastically higher rates and tend to want to be in their kids' lives at higher rates. And then it puts out what I would assume, based on the way he's talking, good fathers. It hurts them because the bad men, because of the bad ones. Like, so. But interesting new concept. Okay.
She came to London. She said that she wanted to make a podcast, and I said, no problem. Okay, let's talk about it. And I decided to feature on her show. Now, when I featured on her show, because of my following in the UK, people would tune in. So essentially, I helped Pearl grow her channel.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I was on there week to week, and I was working with her based on a fee.
Networking.
So the tragic
based on her fee
of Kevin Samuels happened, and there was a vacuum within the manosphere space. Who was it going to be filled by? It was actually filled by JustPearlyThings, along with other content creators. Now, I believe that the reason why this space was filled is because Kevin Samuels had a large following of black men. And these black men were essentially fed up with the way feminism had taken over their community, specifically their women. So when he died, there was a vacuum, and a lot of black men looking for content like this. And it was filled by Pearl. And I believe that Pearl rose to fame because she herself was the opposite of what those men had been seeing. She was a white woman. She wasn't the types of women that they had been seeing, and essentially,
That's it,
she was regurgitating Kevin Samuels' content. So I began working with Pearl, and from the beginning, I started to think that maybe this girl has a colonial mindset. Now, we know that we don't want to be paranoid. So I kept working with her.
What does a colonial mindset mean? Like she wants to colonize? That's interesting. Colonial mindset. I think what he means is that like he might be saying the internalized attitude of ethnic or cultural inferiority felt by people as a result of colonization. Is he trying to say that she was only using black people to become famous and popular? Maybe I don't know, because there's nothing going on in that fucking like birdhouse up there. You know what I mean? And I still don't say birdhouse because she's crazy. I say it because birdhouses are full of literal nothing. They're hollow. And so maybe that is true. I don't know if it would actively be I want to take advantage of black people as much as it's like I just want money. But maybe, I mean, I guess we'll see more. It's interesting, just interesting concept. I mean, he would know her better. He worked with her for however long. Does he still work with her? Like, did he stop working with her? Like, is this I don't know if I can answer this question. Do they still make content together, or did they stop? It has a little bit of an impact, and the only reason I say that is because if they're still working together, this is obviously additionally even more brave, right? Brave because he could be destroying a business relationship. If they stopped working together already, it doesn't mean that he's wrong. It just means that like that motivation thing isn't necessarily there. I guess I wouldn't know. I think he recently stopped. She just said that she should have had him on when she talked on Fuentes. Oh, okay. So they don't do anything anymore. Okay, I thought that they were still doing this together. So it's an ex-co-host. Gotcha.
However, the more I worked with her is the more that I saw.
Oh shit!
She had
a pussy? I'm
colonial type viewpoint when it came to black people.
Sorry.
And I had to school her a few times on what it was like to be black and the black experience, and also what slavery and colonization was actually like.
Why is this all zeros?
You think that historical catastrophes must be compensated for?
No. That's stupid.
That's stupid. Historical catastrophes. It's not a bad idea. I mean, it gets into a conversation about damn, I can't believe I'm not getting any money for that. Sorry, in the game. Yeah, listen, it's like a concept about reparations. I think that there are productive and unproductive way to do reparations. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't say in America, and I'm going to stick to America, that we should just give black people a certain amount of money. I think that too many generations has passed, and it wouldn't be the most productive way to operate. I would say more than anything else, we should probably focus on poor people, provide some kind of a UBI or some kind of a negative income tax, and give like robust opportunities to poor people in general. You absolutely, if you're black, you're going to have a higher chance of being oppressed than a white person. White people aren't going to be oppressed by just because of their whiteness, right? The only thing you'll be oppressed by is unflavored foods. But there are still other forms of oppression. There's like there are drug addicts. Having bad parents across the board is bad for any community. There's drug addiction, bad parents. There is like obviously the race elements. There's sexuality elements. There's height. There's so many different things. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, you say that like somebody who is poor has a higher chance of being oppressed to a point where they may not be able to crawl out of that. Because then there's also welfare. Our welfare system is flawed. Welfare system is good to have. We just need to reform it, because if you're somebody who's poor, you live in a poor community, you're not going to be able to get off the welfare system, because you're better off just staying on welfare because you'll make a better living and it's not as risky, right? If you come off welfare and you start getting a job and you lose that job, it's hard to get back onto the welfare. Additionally, in a robust community, that's like a middle class community, if welfare programs do really well, because if you lose your job, there's usually going to be another job to come back out of the woodworks, right? Because it's a financially robust area. If you live in a very poor community, and in America, systemic racism, black people live in disproportionately poor communities, there's not as many opportunities. So it's really just kind of keeps you there. It kind of just keeps you there. It kind of just keeps you bound. And so there's plenty of conversations to have, but I would say focus more on poverty than anything else. Either way, reparations don't need to take place of 40 acres and a mule. Obviously, you could do things like give money to particular black communities. It's not a bad idea to give money to like leaders of black communities and have them do what they think is best for the community, especially since it seems like we constantly put money into building more basketball courts, which may not be the best way to operate. Like just maybe better schools and more resources, better jobs, etc. I think it really starts at the jobs and the ability to work and whatnot. Right? Very complicated. But I don't think it's stupid to talk about. I think that there's a productive conversation that people can have. But to say, oh, it's stupid, I mean, why is it stupid?
Then, I'm not saying, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing.
Yeah.
So then, how come there were groups of people that got compensation then?
No, the Jews.
For instance, like Jewish people.
I think that the Jewish people specifically, I believe they give money to Israel. What did I say? Israel, right? Did I say it right? Anyway. And yeah, that's what they did. So I don't know. I guess we can give money to Africa, but we're too busy kind of taking their resources because, you know, we need those to preserve America. But yeah, there were forms of reparation that had happened, of course.
Chinese people, Japanese people with the bonds. Like there were groups of people who got compensated.
Sure.
So it wasn't fair.
What? Well, I'm talking about like when I think about group, I think about reparations. So
yeah,
I don't,
that's what we're talking about.
I mean, maybe if the people were still alive today, like I don't know, maybe. But like when you said historical, I thought you meant like at the past, not the present.
Yeah, so like in the past, so like people talk about slavery. So in the past, you know, the Holocaust happened. In the past, you know, the Japanese, but people got compensated for it.
Yeah.
There's a book, right, called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And when you read that book, you realize that the whole Industrial Revolution and stuff like that was started because of the colonization. And you just think, well, if you didn't do that, then you wouldn't be as successful.
Yeah, true. Nothing he's saying is wrong. He's not wrong. It's true. The unfortunate reality is that if you throw bodies at something, it will become very successful. That's how the pyramids were built. You know, they threw Jews at that one though. Okay, so you know, free my guys. All jokes aside, like yeah, absolutely, I wouldn't doubt that at all. It's the unfortunate reality of the world, and then there's a conversation to have about like, wow, you know, now that we have taken advantage of other people's resources to such a degree, maybe it's time for us to return the favor and start trying to empower some of these other countries that don't even have access to their own resources, right? So yeah, for sure, it's an interesting conversation. I'm not surprised a white person isn't like, or I'm not surprised Pearl isn't like. You don't have to agree with reparations. Like I have my difference of opinion. But like you should at least understand it. I'm not surprised that she wouldn't understand it. I don't think that makes her a bad person at this point. I think that just makes her kind of a silly goose that should probably do like a little bit more, put a little bit more energy and effort into these different things. Hopefully she has, but it seems like maybe she hasn't.
So what do you mean by the colonization?
So the colonization of Africa. So both the people
blood diamonds
and the resources, right? There's a direct correlation between the colonization of Africa and the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
And so with all the metals and the rubber and all this kind of stuff coming from Africa, it fueled the Industrial Revolution.
Were metals coming from Africa? I should look into that. Interesting.
Of the West.
Wait, so you're saying like in Africa, when you say colonize, you're saying like did England come in and colonize?
Yeah, like so European, France, Spain, Portugal, England.
And they like enslaved Africans and
yes.
That's what you're saying? Okay.
So they enslaved and at least colonized them.
Interesting. Europe allowed Europeans to build guns and cannons and ships en masse, which they used more efficiently to subjugate the people of Africa. They were also able to build railways that increased their access to African territory. Yeah, it sounds like they were siphoning resources. Okay.
The continent.
Okay.
So when you colonize a continent and then you take ownership of the resources.
Yeah.
You're able to gather those resources together and use them to your own benefit.
Right.
And so you gather those resources, use them to your own benefit, and build up your economy.
Right.
All the while messing up the economy of that actual country.
Right.
Sure.
That video was filmed in 2022.
Yeah.
And in that video, what you saw was me attempting to tell Pearl and show Pearl what colonization was like. How people went to another group of people and took their resources and took what was theirs and built their empire off of it. So when Pearl now...
So I think I saw like a clip of Matt Walsh talking about colonization, and like the typical typical white coat perspective is going to be like, well, we took it, we're better. And it's like, okay, that's like a very historical, like of the past thing to say and think. But now we're at a point of like tolerance. So listen, my perspective would be like, yeah, that was really fucked up. We kind of did what we did and it's unfortunate. Like, but how do we do better moving forward? Right? That would be the way that I would look at it. People like Matt Walsh will just be like, no, that's the way it's supposed to work, you know, because they're just silly gooses. So
plays like she doesn't know what colonization is, and she doesn't know what slavery is, and she says these insensitive statements. In that video, I actually attempted
I guess she didn't take basic history
give
courses.
her a book. It was called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I've read it myself. She semi-dismissed that book. She kind of dismissed that book, and then she went on with herself.
Well, in her defense, the like she's actually just following the manosphere. Women shouldn't be reading. Women don't need to read. All they're supposed to do is cook and clean. So why would she read a book? You know what I'm saying?
Go and interview a man like Nick Fuentes. Pearl has Africans that work for her. Now, Nigeria has many issues. Now,
Sure.
the disparity in Nigeria has rich and poor people living just on the breadline. And Pearl has these types of people working for her. They edit her videos. They make her thumbnails.
So, look what I have here. This is evidence to show how hard my Americans work.
No, hold on. You forgot, yeah? This is how hard my white Americans work.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They're very hard workers.
Yes.
I like how they work. My white Americans really work hard. You see that?
They inspire us to work hard.
No, do you know what? They're working hard for themselves.
This is
bro.
silly.
You know, they're putting in a lot of work, yeah? They put in a lot of work.
I think they're
white
being facetious.
My
Yes.
white Americans
You guys should
work hard.
Work hard.
Yeah, you can.
So Pearl has taken people on from Africa, which on the surface looks like a good thing. And I guess it is.
Yeah, it would be,
Africans are being
right?
fed, they're taking money from her, they are feeding their family. Amazing. However,
Okay.
with a colonial mindset, this can be quite dangerous. And what happened during that interview with Nick Fuentes
Damn, it took so much
was that
damage.
she used an age-old tactic that colonizers use,
Okay.
which was the divide and rule tactic.
What's that mean?
She pitted African Americans versus Africans when she spoke about how hard Africans work
Oh, okay.
compared to how hard African Americans work.
So I watched that clip, and it just seemed like it didn't seem like she was assigning like blackness to it. But then some people are saying that if you watch more of the video, apparently beforehand, she was actually making like a difference in the difference between Black Americans and like Black, I guess, or Africans. I think African people in America don't like to be called Black or whatever. Sorry, I got hit once by a Haitian woman. She yelled at me. Don't call me Black. I was a kid. She didn't actually hit me. She was mad at me. But anyway, all joking aside, all silly goosery aside, yeah, I think the person who made the video, I guess they didn't include that part in there. So, I would have to see it, but maybe she was. I mean, I don't really know. But a lot of people seem to be saying that, at least the people who were there seem to be getting that impression, the Black people that work with her. So I imagine they know her more than I do. So maybe we missed a little bit. I wouldn't doubt that we missed a little bit of context.
And she also used the term "my Africans."
My
Much of what
Africans.
Pearl says is determined by her management, which she has said to me on many occasions that she shares with Candace Owens. So when you have a colonial mindset and you have a
Colonial
management
mindset.
who tell you what to say, what generally happens, in my personal point of view, and what I actually saw, was that she began to start paying people pittance. She began
What does
to
that
start
mean?
offering contracts to people that owned them, just like a colonial master would. Case in point,
What do you mean?
myself and Pearl sat down to have a conversation about me signing to her contractually. And I want to
Okay.
make this very clear. I have never signed to the Just Pearly Things network. I have always been an independent.
Okay.
Pearl has known that, and I have known that. And so anytime I
Okay.
worked with Pearl, we had agreed a fee, and I worked for that fee. I have
Okay.
never been signed to the Just Pearly Things contracts. However, she has signed a few Africans, namely
Okay.
King Riches and Auntie Jenny. Now, I have no problem with a King Riches or an Auntie Jenny. However, if we look at the contracts that they signed, you would understand the reason why I use the term colonization
Why?
and colonial. Now, myself and Pearl sat down to have a conversation.
Or did they not get like a good deal? Why would it be colonization?
And she expressed to me that she wanted to do a new segment for her show. In
Okay.
that segment, she said that she would like me to present a topical news show on a day-to-day basis. So I said, okay, no problem. Talk to me. What are we talking about? And she said she would want me within her studio 4 days per week.
Okay.
I said, okay, from what time? She said from 10 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening.
That's a long time
And I
for
said,
a show.
okay, well, that
Why?
is 7 hours. I said, so working 4 to 5 days a week.
Why would you need to? Why would you need to work that much? I'm only asking because it doesn't really make too much sense to me. I mean, like whatever. Only because it's like social media stuff, and like for like a news show, if you're doing like an hour segment, maybe the research, I guess. Okay, whatever. Let's just keep.
For 7 hours is essentially a day job.
Yeah.
I said to her, okay, so what is my guaranteed fee at the end of the month? What is the salary?
Okay.
And she looks at me and she says, we do not do guarantees and we do not do salaries. So I said, so if you don't do guarantees and you don't do salaries, what is it that you actually do?
Yeah.
She said she does percentages.
Okay.
So I said, okay,
that's fair.
cool. Well, what's the percentage? She said, Sarah, you're the high end, so you will get 70-30. So I
Oh, that sounds fair.
said, fine, okay, let me listen. 70% goes to me and 30% goes to you.
Yeah.
Now she looked at me and she said, no. 70% goes to me,
Oh,
Pearl.
yikes.
And 30% goes to me, Sarah Garvey.
That listen, I don't know. Maybe there's some context on this deal, but if he's doing the deal, I think he's the one that's got to show up and do most of the work. I feel like that does seem a little low for him. I guess maybe I don't know the specifics, but that doesn't sound very good. That sounds. I would have assumed he would get 70%, right? From what it sounds like, and maybe he's misrepresenting the deal. He shows up 4 days a week and does a show for Pearl. He's there for 7 hours. So that means that the only reason he would be there for 7 hours is if he's doing everything. Like literally, like what if it's a day-to-day show? Maybe it's an hour or too long. You don't need to be there for 7 hours if you're just doing the talking, unless you're doing the researching. So something weird is here. So either her. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call her a colonizer, but this definitely seems like a shit deal. I don't know. Maybe we're not getting a right representation. That sounds kind of weird. Why would you be there for so long? I burped.
That's when I started scratching my head. And I said, hang on a minute. So are you telling me that's a high-end contract for you? And she said, yes. And I said, so are you saying that JustPearlyThings Network has other people on low-end contracts? She said, yes. I said, King Rich's and Auntie Jenny? She said, yes. I said, what's the low end? She said, it's 10 to 15%. So essentially,
well, if those people are just showing up to the show, that makes sense to me. Like the way that you described this relationship was that you're going to be doing an entire show 7 hours for 4 days a week, which is a long time. So you should probably get more than 30%. But if I don't know what these other guys do, it depends on what they do. If they're just showing up and hanging out, like 10% seems fine. Who really cares? They seem like they're getting a fine deal. You seem to be getting fucked a little bit. But okay.
She could be owning 80% of the content, which is basically the monetized views on somebody's channel, and they only take home 15% of the money.
Wait, their channel? I'm a little confused now. Does she like support other people's? How does that sound? Wait, I'm a little confused. What are we saying here? I have to know a little bit more about this now, because are they being featured? Do they have their own channel? Is she letting them use her infrastructure? Is she letting them do shows at her own place? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this guy's not really giving us enough context to make like a decision here, to like really understand what's happening here. Because like we don't even know what's the con. I thought that we were talking about like 10% just for showing up. But if let's say they're using Pearl's facility to make their own show, they're using her infrastructure, they're using her studio, they're using all of her microphones and equipment, they're getting a signal boost from her because she is a very successful platform, whether you like her or not. Those might be decent deals. So I guess we don't really know unless we get the full context. I feel like we're not getting enough context. So if he signed the contract, Pearl would own 70% of his channel because he was using the studio. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like we're not getting enough on the context in this part. It seems like doesn't really seem like enough. I don't know if he's accurately representing what's happening here.
She said yes. I said, Pearl, how long are these contracts for? She said 3 years.
That's a little long, but okay.
So I said, let me get this straight. You want to own me for 3 years to take 70% of my ad revenue, keep me in your studio from 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening for 4 to 5 days a week, and you are not guaranteeing me any money. I said, respectfully, for what reason would I work for your company?
Well, the guarantee money thing, you'd probably, I mean, considering her success, you would be guaranteed to make money. You know, you just aren't getting a specifically guaranteed amount. But it doesn't sound like the worst deal. I don't know. I feel like we need to know a little bit more.
She said, because we have a great studio.
Yeah, that's fair.
We have great lighting.
True.
And we have great editors that will edit your stuff down.
Oh, yeah,
now,
true.
I may be a lot of things.
This
I'm not an idiot. I may be cool.
No, that's pretty good. They're going to do everything for you? I mean, again, 7 hours seems like a lot. I don't know what's going on in the 7 hours. I don't know what he has to do, to perform. I don't really know the specifics. But 7 hours, people getting a studio, all the setup, they're managing editing, the thumbnails. You're just showing up and going home and you're getting paid. Like, yeah, it sounds fine. Doesn't really sound like a big... I feel like he's not really accurate. Like, there's definitely things to criticize Pro for, but this part seems to be just, like, silly. This part seems to be silly. Yeah, I mean, considering the output of his content... I'm not sure if he has other channels, but this channel has 100,000 followers, and he gets, like, 3,000 or 4,000 views or an average video. Yeah, let's say 4,000 average views a video, and he posts maybe twice a week. Let's see. Does he have a community? Does he have any other like channels himself? Doesn't seem to be other channels. So it seems like you only have one channel. Like your channel by itself. No offense. Is it like? I'm not super successful either, but your channel isn't particularly successful. It seems like. Maybe I'm missing something. There's no other socials that he's linked to. Like that seems like a pretty good deal, especially considering you're not really coming to the table with a whole lot. Not to be an asshole. So that deal sounds fine. I don't know. I feel like he's not giving us the full context here, but yeah, would I take the deal? Well, I wouldn't work with JustPearlyThings, but would I take a deal with like we're basically talking about almost like a Daily Wire thing. So like, hey, you get 30%, you show up to the studio and you do a particular thing. And you make 30%. We do all the video, the thumbnails, we do all the editing, we do all of this, we do all of that, we do all the shorts, yeah, I probably would, I guess. I mean, that it's if I was going to take a deal, I don't know if I would take a deal. I don't know if I would want to do that kind of thing, but it sounds fun. Why is it a horrible deal? Why do you think that's a horrible deal? He's doing absolutely. He's showing up and making the content, and then she's signal boosting everything that's going on. She's doing having somebody do all the work. She's paying other people. She's not getting 70%. Like, understand that she's not making 70%. Like, she has to pay editors. She has to pay her employees still. Like, the company's making 70%. He's getting 30%. That's not really. Why is that so bad? 3 years is a long time for sure. Like that's crazy. That's a little crazy to me. I would be like, oh, what? Like maybe like a 6 month or a year contract at least to start. That seems like a fair negotiation thing. But the rest of it seems fine. Like it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. At the very least, I feel like there's some misrepresentation in the way that he's talking about the contract.
Be calm.
Hey, what's going on, Magic God? How you doing, brother?
But I'm not a fool. And essentially, the colonial mindset of Pearl.
I don't think that this is colonial mindset.
Quote, plantation for absolute pittance. When a year ago, I suggested to her to look into exactly what colonization was. And she acted dumb.
Damn. He had me in the first 3/4 of the video, and he just lost it here. He just lost it here on this one for me.
People say that stuff about me. They say I'm sexist. They say I'm a misogynist. And
how much is he going to pull? Well, I'll be clear with you. Okay. I've taken a pretty significant financial dump since I've started doing my content on this channel and rebuilding this channel for a new audience. My views are not great. Like we see, like 5. I'll say, like, to me, success is getting 10% of your views. You're my followers per video for me because I post 3 videos a day. With the views that I have right now, I'm pulling $1,200 or $1,300 a week. So if I'm pulling that with these views, I could imagine he would be making pretty decent money. So he'd probably do pretty well. So,
I really just like to give people the benefit of the doubt when I interview them. I don't go into interviews trying to interrogate someone. I just more try to listen and see where they're coming from. In hindsight, that wasn't smart. And in hindsight, I should have had someone,
no pushback.
Maybe Sarah Garvey, maybe another content creator that could have pushed back more and really was more educated on the topics that he was talking about than I was, because I certainly was not an expert in any of the stuff that he was talking about.
Now, I grew up in a time where there were brilliant R&B girl groups like TLC, and also brilliant R&B artists like Toni Braxton. They both sold millions and millions and millions of records, but they ended up broke. Why? Contracts. They were signed to contracts.
Maybe that could probably be part of it. Maybe they also spent poorly. I guess it depends. But there's probably a mixture between the two. Sure.
contracts that did not favor them. And essentially, what Pearl is trying to do is come back in with the same contracts and do the exact same thing to the manosphere and do the exact same thing to the red pill community. Why? Because Kevin Samuels left a gap. And
if you had taken the deal, you could have just disconnected after a certain period of time. You might have been able to even negotiate that time down, and then you would have been successful individually. Like, it's almost like an investment into yourself. So, like, yeah, you don't own your brand for 3 years, and then afterwards you can, like, walk off and you can own your brand again. It's comparable to the Daily Wire shit. Like, this is like another Crowder situation, except it's a little more obviously racially loaded. But it doesn't seem like this huge, like, oh, she's such a bad person shit that I thought this was going to be. It's pretty normal shit. It's kind of like a nothing burger, to be honest with you. Like, she's an idiot, and she might be a little bit racist, but, like, it's not this crazy situation like we're trying to pretend that it is. Well, what do I know, dude? I'm just a white colonizer. All right.
And Kevin Samuels' fan base was predominantly black men. And Pearl has come in there and attempted to be top of the food chain.
Yeah. No, how dare a woman?
Part of this game.
How dare a woman?
I will not be a part of this
fucking bitch
colony. I have always been an independent.
Okay. Well, maybe that's why you're not successful.
You can actually say and watch all of my content can say that I've been around before Pearl.
I'm not trying to be rude, but then, like, maybe that's why you're not successful, because you don't know how to network. I mean, you're making it seem like this is a racist thing. I don't think that it is. She certainly is ignorant racially, but, like, it sounds like you just have an ego problem and you can't, I don't know, maybe you just can't work on a woman, or you just want to be, and I get you want to be independent, because me too. But, like, this isn't just like you would get 30% to just show up. And you would be able to build your brand, and then you could just disconnect after the 3 years, or maybe negotiate it down, and you would have been able to maintain that fame. But, like, even looking at the channel now, it's not like there's a whole lot going on there. You know, to, like, call this some kind of magical colonization just seems like silly goosery to me. You know, just seems ridiculous to me, because that's what a lot of those other people are probably doing. Like, yo, they're not getting a great deal, maybe, but they're probably not getting that bad of a deal. I wonder how much it would have been. I'm sure they negotiated, talked about, like, how much money they would have potentially made. I'm sure that was part of the conversation, was like, oh, how much do you think it will pull in? Oh, well, I don't really know exactly, but you might pull this amount of money in, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't seem like the worst idea, but okay, whatever.
Even arrived in the UK.
You don't really know if it's a fair percentage or not, because you have no fucking idea, like, what she's putting into, like, the shit. Like, you really have no idea. And considering the way that he's been talking about this, I don't even know if he's an accurate narrator to what's going on here. It's very basic to do that. Like, he's no offense, he's had his channel for a long time, but he's not pulling any, like, significant views. She offered him 30% to show up, and they would do all the editing, all the thumbnails, all the advertising, all the marketing. Marketing costs account for 50% of any cost in, like, anything. Marketing costs are huge. Like, movies spend, like, half their budget just on, like, trying to run commercials and advertisements to get people to look. That's true. He's like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. It doesn't really sound very predatory to me at all, but okay.
What would I look like signing my life away, essentially? 70% of all I own.
Not really.
To this woman who just arrived in the UK the other day. She said to me that she's actually looking
like
to
2 million
sign more talent
followers
this year.
Okay.
Good for her. Good for the talent. But I hope they watch this video.
Why?
And I hope they realize exactly what they will be signing. And I actually hope that this video makes her think about the ways, because essentially I had been with her from the beginning.
Okay.
And I had helped grow her channel. And
yeah, for sure,
she could suggest this to me, somebody who helped her grow her channel, then you are nothing to her.
Okay.
I have only given you around 30% of what I know. We haven't even touched on the very odd and weird parties that Pearl likes to invite people to. And I was invited to
that just looks like a regular party where everybody's hanging out, and she's risen up a black guy.
Parties.
Who cares?
That Pearl likes to invite people to. And I was invited to one last year. And she told me that her manager was coming from America.
Okay.
And they were going to have a party.
Okay.
And
manager Kobe.
Very interestingly, they said that it was going to be board games. And I said, okay, cool. Okay. I don't mind playing Monopoly. I don't mind playing Snakes and Ladders. When I got there and I asked her about the board game, she said, no, a board game. There was a whiteboard in the living room.
Okay.
And what she proposed was that we all have a time on the whiteboard and we do what she says and we talk about certain things which were quite sexual and we put them on the whiteboard. But you know what I saw?
Okay.
I always saw her manager Colby in the corner filming everything. And we've all spoken amongst ourselves, and we've spoken about Hollywood and the things that go down. And within that party, what I saw was if people were on that board doing very sexual things and doing things while they were drunk, that stuff was being recorded. But we'll speak about it another time.
Okay, maybe.
Put them weed tools. She said no. Monopoly.
I'm looking
I don't mind playing.
I want to see the board. What?
I said, okay, cool. I don't mind playing Monopoly. I don't mind playing Snakes and Ladders. When I got there and I asked her about the board,
like Colby's not even filming.
She said no, a board game.
Let's see the board. I want to see the board again. You fucking poopy monster. I can't even see what's on the board. I'm assuming this is this guy filming this stuff. Yeah, what a cliffhanger. I'm trying to see what's on the board, but I can't really see anything. I don't know, man. Listen, at the end of the day, I understand why Pearl's getting criticism. She's a fucking idiot. But like this doesn't really. Okay, look, now we got the board. I got the board. But this seems like some of this seems like a little bit Pearl clutching. Let's see what we got here on this board. I don't know what any of this is. Supposed to be a penis or something? Like, I'm not understanding. Something is bigger than something you. I don't think that these are penises. It's probably just some cringe party game. I feel like this is a good picture of him. I feel like he's just being a silly goose, but okay, whatever.